Good morning.
Hello.
I will upload the video from this morning as soon as I can, Scabek. There's nothing too current. We spent quite a bit of time reviewing Andrew's dashboards. He gave us a demo of the dashboards he's been doing. So it's an interesting video to watch to see those. And then what else? We had a bit of a chat about the 502 errors. And I expect the latest for that one will end up on the issue. And we had a brief chat about Helm, which we can wrap up in this call. So there's nothing missed, but it is a worthwhile video.
I look forward to watching it then.
And also, Graham is finishing. Today is officially his last day before he's back kind of in just after Christmas. He's doing the week between Christmas and New Year. He's out for the 3 weeks. So if there's anything, he said he'd check in on the Helm issue before he finishes. But if there's anything else we need from him, then get it over to him sooner rather than later. Hey, Andrew.
Hello. I don't know if I'm needed here again. I just thought I'd try. I was in the morning call, Scarbeck, in case you're wondering.
I was just plugging your demo, saying it's a great video to watch.
I think Scarbeck's seen it. I'm sure you know about the Kubernetes.
I reviewed, well, yeah, I saw all the dashboards that you created, but I'd still be interested in watching the demo about it all. Listening to you talk is fun and interesting, especially when it comes to metrics.
Probably boring as well. Always banging on. And we had a very interesting day today.
We certainly have. It's been busy.
Yeah.
It was an interesting one, though, the incident, because the first kind of one of the first indicators was the deployment abdex alert, not alert, but like indicator.
Warning, yeah.
Yeah, but there was nothing when we first looked into it. It was like, no, it looks mostly fine. There's just a little bit of latency. So it's kind of a.
Which one was it? Where can I actually see those? I fired and forgot on those. Like I don't actually know where they're in.
Yeah, they're in the upcoming release channel.
Okay.
So see, like they come periodically through the day, but this was the first one where I was like, oh, interesting.
Okay, that's that CNY web with the red dot.
Yeah, that's right.
Ah. And that was at 2 o'clock. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so let's get started. let's go through the blockers firstly. So we have, first up is implement generator pattern to allow traffic splitting.
Scarbeck, can you give us an update on that? Because I think you've been doing, well, all the work on the delivery side.
Just been doing a review of what I think a configuration would look like for GitLab.com, and things look to be okay. I think there's a few items that he still needs to address before this gets merged. I have a long thread about the testing work that I've completed, but for the most part, it's working okay. I think there's just a few environmental variables that can be plugged in, and then there's a making sure that the images change when auto deploy works appropriately. I think is the last few items that I have on my list of things that need to be checked up on. He assigned it to DJ for final review, so I guess he's checked everything off.
Cool.
Cool.
So hopefully next week we could start peeling this in and evaluating as necessary for our own purposes.
Cool. Is that one anything additional we need to do for that one, or is it just moving along nicely?
Just it's moving along, so we just need to upgrade our chart and start figuring out how to migrate over to it, because it's not going to be a clean migration when we implement it.
Maybe we should start writing up what the migration plan is going to look like. I think we discussed that we wanted to do WebSockets Action Cable first. But I think we'll have to probably migrate both, right? Because we're going to have a path for Action Cable and then everything else.
Precisely. So we need to, yeah, I think we need to create an issue if we don't have one already to figure out how to migrate it all.
Should we just do this as part of
Maybe
the, I've been thinking just doing this as a readiness review for taking the change and also doing the traffic splitting, because there may be other considerations. So perhaps we just wrap this up with like, we're now going to be creating a new service for WebSockets and Action Cable. We'll create a readiness review for that. That includes the traffic split.
Okay.
Is that gonna, are they all gonna time up? Like if say Action Cable got delayed, because we're dependent on a readiness review from development first, right? So
I think we'll do it together. I know that Marin really wants them to drive it, so I'll talk to them first and get their input. But I did talk to Marin earlier this week, and he said he's fine if we have one readiness review for both the infrastructure work to do the split and Action Cable.
cool. Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Cool. So then next one, we've got the structured logging. Jav, do you want to give us a quick update?
Yeah, evidently it's done and merged and then broke production. So we reverted it. Well, it broke Canary. There's a lot of special consideration we're going to need to make here because we're now wrapping all of the log messages in JSON. So this caused all sorts of problems with Elasticsearch, who's like, you know, suddenly sees these wrapped messages and wasn't happy about it because of the field mappings. I also wanted to comment that I noticed that we're pulling this thing from GitHub. The community, like this is a community contribution. This is item number 7 or B7. I don't know, like this doesn't make me feel great.
It's got an Apache 2 license, which I feel falls into our line of what we accept as a.
Okay. Like, are we sure we're okay with
utilize.
having a GitHub? I guess like this thing, what happens, for example, if this thing isn't able to build or like GitHub has an outage? Will our CNG pipeline fail? Probably, right?
Just to frame that, is it any different from us relying on NPM, which is also GitHub, or
Yeah, fair enough.
Go modules, or just as like a context?
Yeah. I just
Not
wonder.
that I'm saying it's right.
I guess what I'm wondering also is whether like, is the guy who wrote this, is he signed up to be the maintainer and to get changes done, or are we the maintainer? And I guess
I
like
think
we can just let.
have we offered it? Like, because I think it would be definitely preferable if we owned it.
It's so specific to us. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I'll bring it up with distribution to see what they say. Like maybe they already plan to have this guy maintain it for us, which is free work. It's just, I'm worried that we're gonna have to, I'm thinking like for one, like when we wrap these messages, we may want to differentiate between structured logs and unstructured logs. Like maybe even having two keys in the JSON wrap to say like, this is JSON, this is not JSON or unstructured. This may make it a little bit easier for us.
Can I suggest that we just have like one has just got a message and no other keys?
Yeah, that's a good yeah, idea.
You know, so the message is the unstructured chunk.
Yeah, that is a good point. Like here, let me share my screen to show you what this looks like. Probably easier if I edit this. So here are two examples of two examples of two different log files. One is from SSHD and the other one is from the GitLab shell log. So what we have here is this JSON wrap that gives you the key for, I guess, log, and then date, component, subcomponent, level, file, and then message. So it's actually pulling out quite a bit of like meta information from the log line. In this case, like the level's unknown.
Yeah.
I don't.
So
yeah.
On that, I think it would be much better if like we didn't have it nested inside the message. It would probably be easier for us if we didn't have the structured log nested inside message.
Then what would you do? Like just have it
so
there?
Can you see, it would just be flattened. I mean, if they've done it, then we'll just have to deal with it at Fluent, right?
Yeah, we really don't need that log object. We just need what's inside the log object should be the actual event that we send.
Yeah.
I think the key here is that we want this file name, right? We need to be able to differentiate between SSH log and var log, GitLab shell, GitLab shell.log.
I think that's the point of the subcomponent key. And if that's the case, we don't need the log file to be sent to us.
Sure. Okay. So maybe that's, well, I guess we need to decide what we want. And then we're probably going to have to fork and maintain this thing.
I mean, I would say like we can, is this going to get delivered straight into Elastic from here? Or is it still going to go via Fluent in some way? We'll check.
It still goes, you know, through Fluent, and we can do whatever massaging we want in Fluent. It's just expensive, and I would prefer it if we didn't have to. It'd be better if actually, I think you're right, just having like a bare, like if it's unstructured, like maybe we should just have an unstructured key or
the
message.
Flatter, generally with structured logs, the flatter the object, the better. Like the less nesting that you have, the better it is for everyone. So, and this is quite a deeply nested object, right?
Yeah, it's quite nested, yes.
Yeah. I mean, maybe two levels, like one which is the envelope and then the detail.
Yeah.
That just out of interest, that prefix at the front, that won't be there, right? The GitLab shell.
This part, no, this is the actual log file.
Yeah.
So it looks like that.
Yeah. Okay. Just checking.
But this extra, like for example, this top level log key, that seems like unnecessary, I think.
I completely agree.
What about, I don't see a like a pod ID or container identifier in there.
FluentD will inject that, right?
Yeah, so FluentD already injects that. So this is the Kubernetes
Okay.
fields.
Okay.
So we have that.
And the other way you could do it is you could just simplify it almost by just accepting what's there and then do the rest of it in FluentD.
Let's talk to distribution to see what because I think I think ideally what I would like is well, I think this component field is useful. So maybe we keep that. Why do we need an extra date? Like maybe that's unnecessary. I don't know. Or maybe it'll be handy to have. But what is this date anyway? Like, is this when the wrapper consumed the log message and wrote it out? I don't know if that's
Yeah, there's a date and
useful.
a time.
Yeah, we don't need both.
And they're very close, but obviously like a little bit delayed. Like the date is a little bit after the time.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's useful. So component I'd keep, subcomponent, I don't know, level, probably not, file, maybe not. And then
the thing is that for any unstructured log, you're not going to know what the level is, and it's just noise.
Yeah.
You know?
Jarv, what is you were indicating that you would like to have some indicator whether it's structured or unstructured. What does that provide us if we know that information in our logs?
Well,
I can't imagine a situation where I'd ever search, give me all structured logs from our GitLab shell, please, in Kibana.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess not. So maybe
Just,
it's not
sorry,
that important.
I've just realized something that I hadn't realized before, which is kind of a deal breaker to me. And that is that the log is JSON encoded.
Yeah.
So that, like, please, can we not have that? It should just be net, like either flattened out or nested, right? But no, but it's just like the thing is that for every single row, you're doing a JSON parse then, and it's like that, you know, especially with Fluent, that's like super slow.
I think
because you've actually got to read the string and turn it into a JSON object.
Sorry, I think I might have misled you here. I actually think that this is just Kubernetes wrapping it. I think we already unravel.
In Fluent or in?
Yeah, we do it in Fluent. I'd have to look.
But the thing that the tool is sending it wrapped, like the tool that this contributor has built. That to me is the thing I'd like to see the change in the most.
Okay, I'm not sure exactly where this is done, but let's like I'll follow up with distribution. I think we want to make sure that we don't have to unwrap. I think actually though, I think all of these log messages are already wrapped and we unwrap them in FluentD. And the way it works now is that log is either this JSON encoded string or a raw string.
Yeah.
And now it's like, now that it's wrapping the raw string into another, in this JSON blob. So
the two things that are deal breakers to me, I think, are that it should just be JSON and not a JSON encoded string, because I don't know. There's someone was on Twitter was laughing the other day, like what percentage of compute capacity in the world is spent encoding and decoding JSON, and like they were taking estimates of like 70%, and this is like a classic case of that. Like I'm sure we don't need to do that. But the other one, which will just reduce bugs, is for raw unstructured logs, we have MSG as the message, and for structured logs, we don't want to check whether message is an object or a string, because that'll just lead to more bugs, right? Like people like, oh, I didn't realize sometimes it could be a string. You know, I looked at 1,000 of them and they're all objects. And so like having that as like that to me seems wrong. Like it would be much better if MSG was, you know, log.msg was an unstructured log, and like log dot all the things is, you know, structured. Should I write this down? Because I know I'm not being very clear.
I started writing stuff down inside of this little section of the agenda. Under point B in our agenda.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I just confirmed that we are actually, this log wrapping happens right now. This is not something that was added. So I think we'll have to look at what exactly the logger is doing, but I think it's actually just taking the raw message and stuffing it into this message field. And sometimes this message field is a raw string, and other times it's a JSON object. So we basically, so I think you can ignore the first level of escape JSON. That's not the problem. It's the second level here under message that we would have to unwrap again in Fluentd if we keep with this approach.
Yeah, it just feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll write some stuff there.
Hey, should we move on?
Sure. Let's skip down to D. No downtime deploys. Must be.
Aha. Yes, for the Nginx ingress controller. I think I'm just waiting on a review for this. Skarbek, I saw your comment. And did you see my response?
Not yet, no.
Okay. I do think we want this change. Your comment was like, why does the grace period matter? Because the pod gets terminated immediately, right? But the change that we merged, I think a couple days ago, which is this pre-stop hook that runs in a loop And it basically will ensure that Nginx doesn't terminate until all active connections are finished.
Okay.
That's why we need to extend it, because I think this may even take longer than 60 seconds if we have like someone cloning a very large repository.
Gotcha. So we already remediated the initial problem that spawned the issue. Now it's just a matter of ensuring that we could extend the timeline for that pod. Okay.
So that
gotcha.
change is only in staging. It's not in production yet.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Cool, sounds good. And then just to loop back, Andrew, on the dashboard and things, is there anything you need? Like we've got the recording from earlier where we got the walkthrough, but is there any action you need for us to do for you?
I haven't been paying close attention, but the labels on the deployments is the next thing that I need. But I'm aware that there's been a lot of discussion on that with Jason, and I haven't been paying super close attention. But once we can get like the same sort of labels onto the HPA, sorry, onto the deployment, sorry, onto the HPA is what I meant to say, then we can start adding a whole lot more information with that. So that's kind of what I'm blocked on there.
Yeah, I think we've got an issue somewhere in our backlog right now. I think we just need to prioritize it if it's not already.
Yeah, there's two issues for this. One for mailroom, and which you said was missing the label, and the other one for the HBA. That's 1375 and 1376.
The HPA had like, when I looked at the charts, it does have like a customs labels thing, but I don't know how easy it is to put things on there and stuff.
I was hoping to get to these already, but yesterday was like complete waste because of all the investigation we did into this performance, not performances, these errors on the GitHPS.
I don't consider that wasted time at all. That was a good learning experience.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Cool. Okay. And then the final one we have, I haven't got an update on, is pages. I'll see if I can find out. It's nothing on that epic, so I'll go off and get us an update for that one. But progressing along, hopefully. Cool. So one thing I would like to cover, make the agenda, Helm 3. So it would be great to be able to upgrade before we do the next service. So Scubbit, do you want to walk us through maybe, or just give us a brief overview of the situation as you see it based on what you put on the issue?
So the last time we tried to perform an upgrade, we ran into a blocker where we ran into immutable fields where Kubernetes would not let us perform the upgrade because there are certain things that you cannot make changes to in deployments and services for that matter. It doesn't look like we attempted to address this. It looks like we just documented the situation and we inform our users that it's easier for you to just delete the object and perform the upgrade and recreate the object. That in itself will create a disruption in traffic. So what are the options we could do? If this continues to be an issue, I don't know if there's been changes to the way Helm operates in newer versions to make this any easier. But if this does continue to be a situation, testing will tell us. And we could, as Gray mentioned, we could, completely rid of a cluster and replace it. We could also drain traffic from a cluster, perform the upgrade, and send traffic back to it. Either of those options will require us to do some tooling upgrades. That way we attempt to prevent ourselves from blocking auto deploys and patches and such. So we'll need to make sure our tooling is able to handle both Helm 3 and Helm 2 at the same time. And we'll also need to thoroughly test the upgrade path to determine the best method to go about upgrading things. I think last time we attempted to do this, we just failed to properly test it. So I think this time we just need to spin up a pre-2 cluster and fully vet the testing procedure just to make sure that we've covered all use cases.
Cool. So I suppose a couple of things that are different this time around. One is we have the multi-cluster, which is good. 2 is we're doing auto deploys a lot more frequently, which might make it hard. So how do we want to go about, like, what do we need to do to get to a plan where we know kind of the steps we'd want to take and like how we want to handle those things, and then we can work out scheduling?
I think the first step is going to be testing. We need to spin up another cluster, deploy a similar GitLab configuration to it, and figure out what has changed with the upgrade procedure. It's been since April-ish that I did this, so it's been a long time. I don't remember everything. So if we thoroughly vet the testing, we'll have a better idea of what we need to accomplish as far as what changes need to be made to our tooling and how we could, whether or not we want to destroy clusters or just take traffic off of clusters.
Cool. Okay.
I think
yeah.
they're more concerned about a regional cluster since, there's only one of those. And that runs all as Sidekick, so it's not like an easy one we could just dismantle and spin back up quickly.
Cool. Okay. Let's find a time to do that, so that we can actually see where we are with this one.
Okay. All right.
Awesome.
I'll take ownership of that issue, and I'll probably upgrade it to an epic and create some smaller issues.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. What else? Is there anything else anyone wants to demo or discuss today?
I think we should probably catch up now that Scarbeck is here for like what are the next steps for Git HTTPS and the cluster problems we're having. So after catching up this morning, Scarbeck, it sounded like we switched to using the health endpoint, and that didn't go well in Canary because that endpoint doesn't perform well under a load, right?
I haven't fully read everything, but yes, upon initial review, apparently not.
Andrew, do you recall, like, I have vague memories. We used to use this /health endpoint on HA proxy, and then we switched to readiness.
Health,
I wonder if it was for the same
by
reason.
my recollection, health was the one that connected all the way to the back end, right?
Yeah.
So it's very
I think
clever.
so.
And when the database has a blip, or you have basically any downstream problem, you manage to kick off your entire back end because they're all experiencing the problem and they all report a health problem.
This is funny because this was my recollection as well. But then I went to our docs, and like it totally is the opposite. Like it's it does not verify the database or other services. So this looks like, I was like, okay, so health must be the most lightweight thing that we have, right? But I guess it doesn't perform under a load, which makes me very suspicious. I guess we need to look at the code. We need to look at the code.
And is implemented as an additional basic health check. This endpoint circumvents Rails controllers and is implemented as a middleware. Yeah.
But yet when we use this as our health check, it completely brought down, like it totally caused problems for us. We started crashing Puma. Like, how is that possible?
I mean, I suppose you have to go to Puma for the health check. You can't just terminate it at Workhorse, because if Puma's really sick, then we want to take the cluster out. So we always want to, although actually, are we absolutely sure that the health checks are proxy to the backend in Workhorse? Because
well, readiness is for sure, but
readiness
I don't know about health.
because I know that they've got their own roots in Workhorse, which
Yeah,
kind
I know
of
that.
would indicate that it's actually its own sort of setup. But
I'm
point.
almost certain that readiness.
yeah, it would
Rails,
be really bad if it wasn't.
I don't know whether health goes to Rails, but given that we saw Puma crashing when we switched to this health endpoint, I assume it does. Okay, well, I'm a bit lost because I have the exact same memory that you have, which is that like we got off of this health check because it was too heavy, and
it was very clever. It had like Redis, and it was like very engineered.
Right. Like if there was an object storage, like, error, it would like fail or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Seven
Quickly
degrees
pull
of separation.
Yeah, exactly. Like everything has to be up in order for your service to be up.
Right.
Anything's down.
Mailgun is down, then like it starts failing.
yeah, exactly.
So if health is not the right one and readiness throws a 503 when we don't want it to, what about liveliness?
Well, I think we have to start, like, I did some tests with like siege tests on staging against these, and it does seem like liveness is the lightest of the three.
So what about like one of the things that you could do is you could use those k8s endpoints, and you could like send a request. You could put a little script together that sends a request to the k8s like sleep endpoint. So like sleep for 30 seconds or however long, then send a sig kill to what's a SIGINT to Workhorse. And then the next thing that comes along should be a 502, right?
503,
and that should be, and it shouldn't, and that should terminate, that the one after the SIGINT should terminate at Workhorse and not go all the way to the back end, right? Because after the SIGINT, then it kind of draws the drawbridge in and says like, no, nothing else is coming through. But if we could kind of put together like
that's not how it works. That's not how it works. So when you send a SIGINT to Puma, the readiness responds with a 503.
Is it to Puma or to Workhorse?
Well, it's to Puma, but it goes through Workhorse, I guess, because it's going
the signal
through.
Goes to.
No, the signal goes through. No, the signal only goes to Puma. No, sorry, it doesn't go through Workhorse. But the requests that go through Workhorse will return a 503 for the readiness, but everything else will be successful. The problem is that we're using the readiness as the health check endpoint for HA proxy, which means that the whole cluster is being dropped out of the backend as soon as like we terminate a pod, because like some of these requests are actually going to terminated pods, and we're seeing like 503s.
Does liveliness show the same behavior when we sig in
No.
Puma?
No,
Should we
it shows
switch to
200.
liveliness?
Yeah, but I don't want to repeat. I don't want to create another incident. Like we need to somehow put this thing under load and test it.
So what you're kind of saying, or maybe the most resilient way, is if the health check for HA proxy to the cluster is totally disconnected from the health check to Puma.
Yeah. And we were saying before, like maybe we don't want a health check at all. Like if we only have one.
That's what I was almost thinking.
Yeah, but the thing is that right now we have our training wheels, which is the Git fleet, which is set up as backup servers. I need something that tells me that the cluster is unhealthy, so that before at least until we take those Git servers out of the HA proxy backend, because I want to be able to use them as a fallback. So I need something that tells me if the cluster
is there
healthy.
something in engine? So just
Yeah.
I'm a bit slow. HA proxy talks to Nginx. Can we not have a health check in Nginx, which is like, Nginx, do you have backends? If you've got backends by your own measurement, then we will talk to you. But without, because I don't know.
That's probably the best option, but I don't know if that's something we can configure. But
sounds like an Nginx Pro feature.
Yeah, it probably requires a sales call. Contact us.
So I mean, the question is why, if Nginx didn't route to terminating pods, that would be the best, right? So
that would be the best, but
why is but in either case, like, we shouldn't allow a single pod, that's misbehaving to happen to get the health check endpoints and then take an entire cluster out because of one pod, right? Like that's like inverse resilience.
Yeah, but okay, so we know that when you send the signal to terminate a pod, there will be a small window of time when requests will still go to that pod. I mean, it's just eventually consistent, right? So the readiness check protects us against that, because the readiness check returns a 503, but we're still able to process requests. And we have this configurable blackout window, which is set to 2 minutes. So I think it's okay that we're getting some requests are leaking and going into these terminating pods because they're mostly successful. The problem is that the health check is returning a 503 during this time. So we need to come up with another check that's always going to return a 200.
So like, I'm just like, here's a failure scenario, so say you have one pod which is broken for some reason, and it is, Puma's in a broken state, and the request is going, Workhorse is accepting, but Puma's not accepting, it's dead, the socket's died. And, after 30 seconds, it's timing out with a 503 or however, after however amount of time. And a series of requests come in from HA proxy through Nginx, and they hit this, and they all come back with a 503. At that point, HA, because of one pod out of N, HA proxy then removes that entire cluster from the, one of the 3 clusters. So that's why we absolutely can't connect, unless I'm misunderstanding it.
No, I don't think you're misunderstanding. I think like our assumption was that this window was very short, like by the time, like,
but I'm not talking about after SIGINT, Jarv. I'm talking about
you're talking about
broken.
So if you have a single pod, I guess our assumption was that HA proxy has to fail like 3 checks. So given that you're going to hit random pods for those 3 checks, that it wouldn't. But you're right. I think maybe that's not a chance we should be taking.
But that kind of, to me, smells like the architecture should be that it's a different, like, it should be almost the health check for the cluster should be terminating at Nginx rather than going.
Yeah, I see your point. I think you're right. So let's see what our options are there. And if we don't have an option, then maybe we should just remove the health check altogether.
Feels like the kind of thing some geek somewhere is blogged about.
I'm sure.
Jarv, I would encourage us. Go ahead, Andrew.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, most people don't have the setup that we've got with the 3 clusters, and so maybe it's it's less important when you've only got one cluster, because you're never gonna, you're never gonna pull it out, and you're never gonna take it out as a backend. So it is
well, in our case, even we'll never. I think once we get rid of the Git fleet, there'll never be a case where we're going to want to take out the cluster from the backend, because
but also, that situation could occur during a role, like a deployment, and there might be, might be more than one machine shutting down, and then you might accidentally, just because there's a high prevalence of 503s coming back, you might, you might get a situation where you get 3 in a row.
Yeah, but in the sunny day scenario, like I was hoping that we'll never see any errors, because we have this blackout window period, right? Which should be long enough so that Kubernetes doesn't route any traffic after 2 minutes to a terminating pod, but apparently it does. And this was the problem we found with the Nginx controller yesterday, where it appears that Nginx keeps these connections open to pods that are in the terminating state. And the only way around it is to reload Nginx.
How does Nginx, I was just about to ask a similar question, how does Nginx get told which backends to route to?
It has two options. We use the option where it just sends it to the service endpoint, which is one IP address and one port. And the service endpoint does the routing to the pods, like that. It has
how do you configure it though? Is it like you literally rewrite the Nginx config and then, or is Nginx using like DNS service records?
Nginx has like an upstream proxy with a single IP address, which is, and a single port, which is the service IP. So all requests are going to the service IP. The problem that we think we discovered yesterday was that because of Keep Alive, that even though that a node was removed from the service, these existing connections, are still active, and we would still get requests going to these terminating pods. So we adjusted the Keep Alive, and from what I've seen so far, it doesn't help as much as we thought it would. Like, we have to play with that more. But yeah, I don't know, man. It feels like maybe we need to get rid of Nginx.
Jarv, I don't know what you have tested today, but I think maybe we should concentrate more on this Keep Live stuff. I also found another option that we could set in our ingress controller to potentially tell Nginx to resend a 502. That way we hopefully avoid sending 502s back to our clients.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so in the demo this morning, we saw that like we were still seeing the same problem on staging.
Okay. During a short conversation with Matt Smiley yesterday in our DNA meeting, I was talking about how we just halved the amount of Keep Alive connections or requests that go through. We should probably consider lowering that a significant large amount just to lower it more. So maybe we should just keep going just to see if we see any improvement at all.
Yeah, I think like it's really easy to see this on staging because we have enough traffic. I think because of the traffic generator that we can kind of see like what we see right now are not a lot of 502s, but we do see a lot of 200s after the termination signal is sent and the readiness check is failing. And I think
we need to eliminate that as much as possible.
Yeah. Okay.
So my guess about it being an Nginx Plus feature seems to be correct.
Are you serious? Fuck.
I might be. I mean, it's the first thing I found, but it's definitely a plus feature. What I found, the active health checks, they call it.
Oh.
We'll see. Maybe it's a different thing.
So let's keep working on the Keep Alive stuff. Let's tune that more. Maybe I could do some math to figure out better appropriate values for Keep Alive settings, and maybe also try out that other configuration where it'll retry a 502. What should we do with the health check at this point? Because right now staging and prod are configured differently at this moment, right?
I thought you reverted it on staging as well.
Alejandro reverted production yesterday due to the incident. I have not touched staging.
Okay, well,
should we just revert and come back to that?
Yeah, maybe. I kind of want to get rid of, I want to remove the readiness check, but I also don't want to remove the check altogether. And I don't want to add a different endpoint that's going to cause problems. So I can do some more load testing to see whether liveness looks better, and maybe we can switch to that if it does.
Okay. Well, if you want to continue down that route, I'll start looking more into the Keep Alive stuff, because Jason also asked if we're touching the correct Keep Alive setting in the issue. So I need to do a little bit more research on that as well.
What do you think about being as like severe as possible with the Keep Alive? Like on staging, let's just like remove Keep Alive altogether and see if that actually makes this window either like go away entirely or is really short, and then we can work up instead of working down.
I like that idea. Yeah, let's try that.
Because I'm worried we're just spinning our wheels, and like it's the keep alive's not going to matter at all. Like, but
Yeah. Do we need to worry about WebSockets at all? I mean, that's client to Nginx. I think Nginx will still maintain or restart the connection that's necessary to the backend, but I'm not really sure how that works.
I don't know, but it's so low traffic right now. It's not our biggest problem. And maybe like when we have WebSocket traffic going into this other, like have it segmented off, we can worry about it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's start doing some testing and staging.
Cool. All right.
Awesome. Sounds like a plan. Is there anything else anyone wants to cover today?
Can tomorrow be Saturday?
That is beyond my powers, unfortunately.
We have the GitLab Cape Town Christmas get together outside open air tomorrow, so it'll basically be a long weekend. No social distanced holiday.
You're inviting people from GitLab over to your place?
No, we're having it in the National Botanical Gardens outside, not going for a hike.
Oh, that's cool. I figured you were having like a barbecue or something in your backyard.
No. Don't. No, we're not going to do that. That just sounds like a mini super spreader event.
Yeah, sure.
But you were after an invite then, Job. I thought that's why you were asking.
Yeah, like I want to be. Like, seriously, the people in Slovenia, like we don't even talk to each other. Like we have a Slack channel. No one says anything, and I've never even seen Matei. I don't even know what he like looks like in person. And Jan, like I never talked to at all. So yeah.
Are you welcome to come down to Cape Town anytime?
Yeah, maybe we'll move to Cape Town. Yeah, sounds like.
Cool.
Cool guys. All right.
Bigger. Speak soon.
Talk to you.